Yeah, when she
Off
said
into the off into the sunset, eh?
yay! Everybody, this is Antonio Micheal Downing. Good to have you back.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
It's nice to
Hi.
see you, Luisa.
So happy to be starting our year with your book. So we're
Or
just,
am I the first one of the year?
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. So we're just
Triumphant.
gossiping about your book. So, I, so Ayomiku, please read Antonio's bio so we can, start asking him. Let's fire him with all the questions we have.
Right. Hi, Antonio. Nice to have you. Okay, so Antonio's bio. Antonio Micheal Downing spends his time writing books, singing, and trying to make his grandma proud. The 2018 Taylor Prize named him one of Canada's best emerging authors. His acclaimed memoir, Saga Boy, was called by Gila winner Ian Williams the triumph of Blackness everywhere. Black Cherokee is his debut novel, published in 2025. He writes and performs as John Ophius.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
So
I
Ayomiku,
will also add to that.
Mm-hmm.
I will also add to that that I am the host of CBC Radio's The Next Chapter. If you listen to, which is a book.
Really?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do listen.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
okay.
which is a national book show. I think my bio hasn't been updated yet, but I also do that as well.
Okay. Well, good to have you back. Yeah. Like I said, I think we discussed Saga Boy years ago. Amazing conversation. Hold on, someone is joining us from Australia. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So we did Saga Boy, then his children's book. We discussed, I think we chatted about that. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Another amazing, 2 years ago, another amazing read. So you see, he's a friend of the house. So we're happy to have you here. So everybody, get your questions ready. So
happy endings. Let's talk about happy endings.
So when I started reading the book, initially I was like, okay, so what is he talking about? I had an image in my head. I already had a story in my head. Love story. Everybody's gonna be happy. Kumbaya, we run off into the sunset. And then things started happening. So first of all, I think here in the beginning here, where you said, my curiosity about how Black and Indigenous lineages overlap began as an 11-year-old Caribbean immigrant in the northern town of Sioux Lookout, Ontario, where the population was half Ojibwe. It taught me the first thing I learned about Canada. It doesn't like Indigenous people. Soon after, I learned that it also doesn't value Black people. Black enslavement and Indigenous genocide, North America's two original sins. And it's interesting how he said it creates passionate affinities and hatreds when intermingled. So, like I was saying in the beginning when we were gossiping about the book, what I found interesting here is how everybody claims right to a land they've all lived on based on how long they've lived there. The white people, that's the Beauregards, then the indigenous people, and then the freed slaves. In Nigeria, where we come from, it doesn't matter how long you've lived there. If you're not from there, you are not from there. Oh no, you are not from there. If you're an Igbo man who was brought up in Yoruba land, your ancestry can go all the way back. No, you are still an Igbo man. So I found that very interesting. Yeah. But well, it didn't start off the way I wanted it, and it was not the love story I was hoping. So please tell us your inspiration for writing this book and why you chose this character to be the vehicle for carrying the story, moving the story along.
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always, I remember all our talks very fondly. So it's nice to be back and to be invited back. You know, it means I was not a terrible guest. If they have you back for dinner, it means you you didn't offend anybody's ancestors the first time. So picking it up where you left off, I would say that's the story of this land that we're on in North America right now. That's the story. The story is a land where, right now we are witnessing the dystopian reality of the descendants of white folks who colonized the land, who took it from indigenous people, telling anybody who doesn't look like them that they don't belong here. It's like me coming to your house, taking your house, and then calling the police because somebody is an interloper in the house I've stolen. And so I think fundamentally it's about community and who gets to be included and who gets to be excluded. Because that's what we're always arguing about, right? Yeah. Are immigrants Canadian, American? Do they belong here? Do they have the same rights or do they not? Black people have been here, but do they have the same rights? Do they deserve to be treated equally or do they not? And so Ophelia is somebody that's born into two communities, a Black community and a Cherokee community, and both communities reject her. And so the real question is like, what happens to her is definitely part of the story, but also what happens to a community when they kick out one of their own. Because, if I cut off my pinky finger, I hurt my pinky, but I also hurt myself.
Yep.
And so when we have people who are integral to our communities and we cast them out, what happens to us after? Because we've wounded ourselves. And then how do you heal? So those were the questions I wanted to ask, particularly in the American context, because my inspiration came, almost 15 years ago. I was traveling a lot. I worked in the South of the United States. And so I saw how Black and Indigenous and white histories intermingled and co-descended. And also I saw how they fought each other for the right to say who this belongs to. So to use your analogy, Louisa, if you're an Igbo man in Yoruba land, it's still Yoruba land. Well, the indigenous people, they're the Yorubas in this case, right? It's their land. Mm-hmm. And it's always been, if that's how it works. Mm-hmm. But then the white people would say, well, we came here and we built this country to be what it is. And the Black people would say, well, we did all the work. We just didn't get credit for it or payment for it. So all have a claim to the land, and America as a country has evolved because of the contributions of all of them. But how do you decide? As you can see on your news and your internet every day, they're still trying to figure out who's in and who deserves this life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that their Constitution says. They're still fighting to figure that out. And so all of that history and the landscape and the people were my inspiration. And the reason why I chose Ophelia was because I wanted to, we are all born into lineages, histories.
Yeah.
Family history, tribal history, regional history, national history, human history. And we don't really know, most of us don't know any of the history we're born into. But that doesn't mean we don't feel it every day. It hits us, it affects us, it changes us. We're always running into things from the past. The past actually never dies and it never stays in the past. And I'm shocked at how many times I talk to my dead grandmother every day. I'm talking to her every day. I'm, and not remembering things she said, but asking her about things that are happening now. And she has opinions. And, and I can hear her answers if in her own voice in my head. So the past doesn't ever stay in the past. And so I wanted to experience this living history through the eyes of its most vulnerable person.
Mm.
a black girl child without a father or mother to protect her.
Mm.
Because I feel when the most vulnerable person experiences, that's when you really understand how the dynamics and how the power works. It's the people who have the least power who really have a realistic picture of what's really going on. When you have wealth and power, you can always lie to yourself and get away with it. But
It's like in
but when
no, go ahead.
but when you don't, like Ophelia, you have to confront the reality of what it is. And that's why I chose Ophelia as the vehicle for this story of Black Cherokee.
Okay. It's like in Nigeria, I would say it's he who wears the shoe that know where it pinches the most.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So before I go to Grandma Blue, I just so in looking at Ophelia, what do you think defines identity? Is it your external? Is it the external? Is it the external or the internal? Because reading Ophelia's story, I saw her identity evolve. In the beginning, she was looked down upon. At a point later, she was seen as exotic, beautiful, and exotic.
Mm-hmm.
When Christopher got interested in her, I just felt that is the thing that happens to Black and Latina women, where because of the way we look, we are over sexualized and we're just seen as exotic beings. So I just felt her identity kept changing through the different chapters of her life. So, what will you say defines identity? Is it the external factors or internal factors based on
Well,
Ophelia's story?
it's not that simple, I think is the truth. Is that I mean, an identity as a word can be looked at a lot of different ways. Is identity how you see yourself, or is identity how people see you? Those are two very different things, as we all know. So I think internal and external events affect. There's a conversation going on between the internal and the external. And together that affects how we see ourselves. And therefore that affects how we show up, which affects how others see us. But, as you pointed out, a lot of times you can't help how other people see you. In fact, I would say a great part of maturity and growing up is to stop giving so much focus on how other people see you because it gives them power, right? But that's a very hard thing to do for most of us. But I would say the most secure of us are people who have learned that who they are starts in here, not out here. But I think as a child, when you're vulnerable, you're just trying to look at how people treat you and figure out, that's how we all learn to kind of how to think about ourselves. People around us are like mirrors, and we look at them and we see the self they reflect back to us. And that's often who we believe we really are, whether it's true or not. I mean, we've all seen a beautiful person who was told they were ugly when they were young. And what do they believe? They believe that they're ugly.
Yeah.
Because that's what their mirrors showed them. Or a smart person who was told they were stupid when they were young. And they still grow up being insecure about being smart. So we as children, because we're so vulnerable, we believe what the mirrors around us show us about ourselves. And although they could be wrong, although we have no control over them, although they could be showing us something out of their own vindictiveness or for their own reasons, we believe them because we don't know any better. And if we are lucky, at some point in our lives, we know better. And I think Black Cherokee is that is the arc of Black Cherokee. Is Ophelia, every time she goes around new people, she gets a different image of herself that she believes. She's around Grandma Blue, she thinks everything is good. We're Cherokee. She goes to Cherokee school, they tell her, you don't belong here, look at your hair, it's curly. So she believes she doesn't belong. Then she goes to the town and she goes to church and they tell her, you belong, but you know, you don't really have a family, so you don't belong as much as we do. Right. And then she believes them until she learns better. And then with Christopher, he gives her a vision of herself. You're beautiful, you're worthy, you're all of this. And so she believes him until she learns better. And that's the arc. And by the end, she decides, she says, this is what I am gonna do. And that's the beauty of how it ends, is that, and you know, we don't know what's going to happen with Christopher and her, so there might be a happy ending still. but but
So it's
but
like,
what we
no, go ahead.
but what we do know is that she has learned how to decide for herself, and she's starting her journey to be like, I am the one who's going to decide. So she might go to school, she might go with Christopher, or she might do something totally different, but it's going to be on her terms.
Mm.
And that's really the arc of it. So I don't think it's internal or external. I think it's a combination of the two, which is the same of all of us, right? There are things we can control and things we can't control, you know?
Well, so it's like saying, in terms of identity, trying to strike a healthy balance between external and internal factors. And then you get to a point where you say everyone can go to hell. Because at the end of the book, oh yeah, at the end of the book, as far as I'm concerned, she's like, you know what? Because even when Christopher showed up, and she's like, what do you want? Even
Yeah.
with everything, as far as I'm concerned, when she came out, it's like saying, you know what? The world can now go to hell. I'll do what I want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's rejecting everything, but I think she's rejecting being a complete puppet. Like, I will listen to what you have to say,
Okay.
but I will decide.
Hmm.
You know, you don't have to go all the way to hell, but I will decide. I will decide. You know, and I think that's a natural place that we all come to in our lives, regardless of if we went through what Ophelia went through. We all get to a point where we say, you know what? I've listened to Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Jane, and father, mother, and auntie, but at the end of the day, it's us and God. You know, it is what it comes down to, and we live with the consequences of our actions, right? So we have to make those choices. So that's what I think.
Okay. I'm opening the floor to everyone who has questions. Lala, Bukola, Heather, everybody. I'm opening the floor. Please feel free to ask your questions.
Hello, Miss Lala. How are you?
Okay, ask your questions, please. Where's Bukola? Okay, Lala, you want to go first? Uh-huh.
Well, I can start. I
Yeah.
just wanted to say the book felt, thank you for your book again, Mr. John Orpheus, aka add that to his bio. He's also a musician, right? So I just wanted, the book felt really familiar to me because I've lived on a native reserve in outside of Calgary. I worked as a nurse for 3, 4 years. So I was saying to the ladies before you joined, I sort of like know who grandma is. I've looked after grandma. I know Ophelia. I know Ayana. So yeah, and the romantics thought they would walk out into the sunset. And then some of us ladies thought that why do we always have to be pregnant? You know, so maybe you can tell us why you chose that route to round up the story. Otherwise, it was a good read. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you, Lala, in real time.
Correct, correct.
We're Lala and I are big fans of each other on Instagram, so it's nice to see each other real time. Why do we always have to get pregnant? Well, I don't know. I don't think that's for me to answer as an author. I think that something I learned writing this book is that despite what I want as an author, I had to take a step back And what I learned, and the turning point for me was when I said, look, I would like this to be, despite what I want this book to be as the author, the book has something it wants to be, and I need to get out of the way. And so the question is, what is true to the characters in their situation? Not what I want, or, oh, we could make a happy ending. Yes, there are people who write like that, but I am not engaged in escapism. What I want to do is, like, some people read to kind of escape reality. And I'm not mad at them for that, because reality is difficult. So you can't blame anybody for wanting to escape for a little bit. But I read to understand reality. I read to have a deeper engagement with reality. To me, a young girl with no parents, from a poor family, with no father or brother or anybody really looking out for her, who is deeply insecure and seeking to find her way.
Ultimately.
Does it make sense that they ride off into the sunset? You want them to, but is that what really happens?
No.
No. So despite what I wanted for Ophelia, I had to honor her journey. You know, I had to honor that arc for her, because those lives are valuable lives too. Right? Not everybody needs to marry when they're rich and in a mansion and in love with a great gentleman who's going to end up being president of the country. Not everyone, that's a beautiful story, and it's an inspiring story. It's also inspiring to me for someone who has a really difficult time to figure out who they really are and take control of their lives, despite the fact that they maybe made a mistake. I don't know if it's a mistake. That's the thing. We don't know if it's a mistake. We don't know what happens. But and I'll give you some context. When my mother was pregnant with me, everyone, including the doctor, told her the baby is stillborn because they're not moving. So you should just abort the baby, because this baby is not going to be born. And she said, no, he's there. I can feel him. I can fight for him. She was 17 years old. So if the theory is that we should only have these grand happy endings in a mansion and only have babies when the time is perfect for us, then I would not be here to write any book. so that is my take on that, is that, look, we don't know that it is a bad thing, but what we do know is that girls in that situation almost frequently get pregnant when they're young, and also girls from families who got pregnant when they're young also get pregnant when they're young. That's the reality of it. I felt like if I didn't, I just felt like that's the reality versus the fantasy of it, right? And so I wanted to honor that. And who knows? I don't know. Personally, I have faith in Ophelia. I have faith that where she got to, she's gonna do the right thing. She's going to make her own choices, and more in her life, she's going to be powerful. We've caught her at her weakest, but she still has, she's 19, so she still has all her life ahead of her. She's smart, she's capable, and for once, she knows who she is.
Okay. Thank you.
That's my story.
I hope you're okay with that answer. Bukola,
Yes.
your hand up.
Wow. Thank you so much for all of that. Yeah, that was really good. So I like the fact that you write to not to escape reality, but to explain and maybe explore reality. Thank you so much for everything you said. So as a Nigerian living in the UK, I haven't encountered a lot of books by about Indigenous Canadians. So I would say this is probably my second. I haven't read many. I really enjoyed this and I learned a lot from it. Um, Before you came on, Louisa had mentioned a few, but I was going to ask if you could recommend any that I could read to learn a bit more. And the other thing I wanted to say, which is a kind of a statement or kind of a question, is when I got the book, I was actually very surprised when I looked at the back and saw the picture of the author because I saw what it was. I knew the premise of the book, and somehow I expected to see the author to be someone that was probably an indigenous person or a black, and I don't know what I expected. So I was a bit shocked. So my question is, how was your book accepted? How's it been accepted by the people you're writing about? I don't know if
Mhm.
that's a great way or
It's a great
yeah.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, nice to meet you, Bukola.
Nice
Thank you
meeting
for
you.
reading the book and thank you for you know, I in my work on the CBC, which is like the Canadian BBC. So I have a show where I interview people about books. Millions of people listen every week. And sometimes I lose faith because so many of the books I talk about, they don't want, you know, they want the happy ending
Mhm.
because people are like, I have enough reality. I don't need more of that. So thank you for being one of those people that do need more. Um, yeah, so books to recommend. Oh my goodness, there are so many. Uh, there are so many. I personally liked a guy named Thompson Highway, and I'm actually gonna just put the I'm gonna put the links in the chat
Oh,
so
perfect.
everyone can
Thank you.
benefit
Perfect.
from it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, because so Thompson Highway is actually the first indigenous writer, the first indigenous writer I ever read writing for indigenous people. He was the first guy, and I read him because in university, he's a playwright actually, and a really interesting guy. He speaks 7 languages.
Okay.
He's a concert trained pianist, and this is his memoir of his life. So I just put this in the chat. Let's
Mm.
see. Da, 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 da. So I'm going to share his memoir because I believe. Okay, hold on. Everyone. There it is. Yeah, so here's his memoir. I really like that book. Um,
Thank you so much.
there is another author named Wabashig Rice, um, who is just great. Any of his books would be amazing. But um, I'm gonna send you a link to Moon of the Turning Leaves. But it's a series of books,
Okay.
and I really like the entire series. But if you like this one, then you can try some of the other ones. And I'm going to send you a book by someone named Tanya Talaga, um, who is a friend of mine. Actually, I know I've met all of these writers, um, but Tanya is the one I'm the closest with. And this book is about the place where, when I first came to Canada, the place I moved to and the Indigenous people there. So it's nonfiction, but it's a really important book about, you know, sort of Canadian Indigenous people. So, to,
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I will get
yeah,
them. And I'm going to, even though I'm in the UK, I'm going to listen to CBC because I love book recommendations. I love people talking
yeah.
about books. So I'll listen out for your session. What's it called again?
It's called, so the show is called The Next Chapter.
The Next
And
Chapter. Okay.
you can actually just look it up on any place where you get podcasts.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
If
on
you
Spotify then.
okay.
Yeah, so it comes out as a podcast as well. So I'll put the link as well in the chat. But yeah, like it's we do book recommendations, famous authors, celebrities. It's really about reading and just the joy of reading. We do a thing called My Life in Books, where we get people to tell us the books that have shaped and changed their lives and shaped them as people. So yeah, it's really fun. Sometimes we do musicians and sports celebrities as well. Yeah, you will definitely leave with lots of books that you want to read after every episode. That's our style.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So to your question about which I think is an important one about Black and Cherokee people. So the Cherokee are actually from the southeastern United States. So when on the east side of America in the south, where people first landed, there were 5 tribes that lived there. They were called the 5 civilized tribes. So there was the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Seminole, the Creek, and the Choctaw. And at one point, the American president at the time, Andrew Jackson, passed a law called the Indian Removal Act, where he removed all 5 of the tribes and forced them to march all the way to Oklahoma, which is thousands of miles on the other side of the continent. Many of them died, and that's called the Trail of Tears, if you ever heard reference to that in American history. So this particular history is that the wealthy people from the large tribes, the Cherokee was the largest, they sort of took up what the white folks were doing when they met them and sort of saw that in the South, slavery was that's how their whole economy functioned, right? So they made money from the things that they planted in the ground, like cotton and sugarcane in the Caribbean. And in order to do that, they took a lot of West Africans and forced them to do the work for free. And, we all know that story. And so basically, the wealthy people in those tribes started owning slaves as well. And then when they were forced to move, they had to take all their wealth with them, and slaves were worth money. In fact, they say at one point in America, the slaves were worth like 3 times the GDP of the actual country. So all of the wealth of America was in Black skin. And so, of course, when you're traveling, having wealth that can walk alongside you was a smart idea. So those people who have been part of the Cherokee tribe for over 200 years, still to this day, are both Cherokee and Black, Seminole and Black, Chickasaw and Black, right? And so they're a weird mix that no one talks about. But even to this day, they're fighting to be considered full-fledged citizens of those tribes. So there's only one of those 5 tribes today that has allowed the Black members to be considered full citizens, and that's the Cherokee. And they only did that in 2019, so just recently. Yeah. And everyone else have no status, right? So that's sort of the history that's being talked about here. So to your question, how did Indigenous people take it? Many Indigenous people have read it and enjoyed it. But a big thing with this is, what do the Indigenous, that specific tribe, think of it, right? So if I were writing a story about the Igbo and I was an Igbo And a bunch of Yoruba people is like, I like your story. That's nice. But actually, what do Igbo people think about the story you're writing about them, right? So to that end, the chief of all the Cherokees, because the Blacks are now considered citizens, he has basically appointed an ambassador from the Black Cherokees. That person called me and I sent them a couple of the books and they read it and they enjoyed it and were very thankful for and praised the effort to capture that history for them. In doing the book, of course, because I'm not those things, I did a lot of research because, the worst thing you could do, and imagine someone who is not from your culture writing about your culture, and like right away you're just like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop right away. You're like, stop it. Here's the thing. There are 10 scholars of what they call the Black freedmen. So all of the tribes together, and none of them are actually Black freedmen because it's such a small group of people. And they've been so discriminated against that there's not a lot of writers within the population. And I spoke to 5 of them. I had some correspondence with at least 5 of them, 5 or 6. So the 6th was just an email exchange, so I don't count that. But so I really read and spoke to the experts and dug deep so that I would know the history and be able to speak to it honestly and fairly. And I don't think if there were a lot of Black Cherokee scholars writing about it, I probably wouldn't have written this book. But because no one's writing about it, I thought this is an important thing to talk about. My ulterior motive is that I grew up in the Caribbean where there are a lot of Afro-Indigenous people. And one of the big things in North America, as Louisa said in the intro, the 2 original sins are slavery and Indigenous genocide. But Black and Indigenous people don't always mix. They don't always get along, right? And so part of me writing the book was to start a conversation around that. Because, the truth is, for me, it's very personal, right? So when I was a kid, I went, a small village in a Caribbean island off the coast of South America. And I go to school, and the way we spoke outside of school, they told us, no, not in here. In here, you have to speak proper English. And proper English meant the Queen's English. And because the more you were close to being white or British, the better a person you were seen as and the more opportunity you would have. And staring down in this one-room country schoolhouse, staring down at me was the first white person I ever met, Queen Elizabeth II, staring down benevolently. And so I connected speaking proper in the Queen's English with this image of this woman. So I come to Canada and I moved to a town called Sioux Lookout in Northern Ontario. They call it that because the Ojibwe it's on a height, and the Ojibwe used to go there and look out for the Sioux if the Sioux were attacking. And so they call it Sioux Lookout. And they skipped me a couple grades. So I was a little Black church boy in my church sweater with my little, they thought I was the weirdest little kid. And when I walk into the school, guess what the name of it was? Queen Elizabeth District High School. And when I walk into the foyer, guess who was staring at me from the foyer, looking down on me? Same person. And so that's when I realized that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Because the history tells us that South Africans came to Canada to study the residential school system, the apartheid, right? The Afrikaners, and then used it to create the township system in South Africa. And then they taught it to the Israelis to create the system of apartheid that they built in Gaza. So this stuff is all connected. And so I wanted to write a book that brought Indigenous and Black people together because I wanted to talk about all these connections we have in common. Because if they're going to perfect the method of persecution on you, and then they're going to use it on me. And it works the other way. That same person, Tanya Talaga, is one of Canada's foremost Indigenous voices. And she always tells me, she says, I read Black scholars about how to do resistance and to build community against white oppression. And I do that because Black people lived with them. They nursed them at their bosom. They worked with them in the field. They know them intimately. So when I need help to direct Indigenous people in Canada, I look to Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and James Baldwin and all these American heroes. So it seems like these things have nothing to do with each other, but they actually have a lot to do with each other. And that's why the book is called Black Cherokee, because when you see it, you think, wait a minute, I've heard of Black, I've heard of Black Nigerians and Black Ghanaians and Black Trinidadians and Black Jamaicans, but I've never heard of this. The truth is, Black Indigenous people live all throughout where those two cultures met. So that's why it was important to me. I'm sorry, that's a long answer, but that question actually cuts to the heart of why this book needed to exist for me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was perfect.
Thank you. When you spoke about writing about a culture different from yours, I remember a popular book. It's been taken down now, called Woke. I don't know if it was in Canada or the US, and it had the picture of a woman in an afro, and they were making a lot of noise about the book and how good, until they discovered it was written by a white woman. What an insult. Yeah. What an insult. Yeah, so that was taken down. And when you were talking about English, the English you speak in school is different from the one you speak outside. It's like it took me back to the north, where if you come into school, so in Nigeria we speak Pidgin English, we speak the Queen's English, then Pidgin English. The Pidgin English is the combination of so many things, slangs, it's fun. But it was called vernacular in school, and we were penalized for speaking it. Yeah. Or even if you speak the dialect Hausa, there was also that, you were penalized for speaking it. And I think back then, if you were found speaking that, you would pay 1 kobo. Yeah, that was the punishment for that. So when you said you saw the image of the Queen, I remember your opening of Saga Boy, the Queen shaped my brain. I think that was how you started, Saga Boy. And Bukola, you were asking about literature. I think the Indigenous literature I had read, and it's so different. It's interesting how Indigenous literature now has changed. The first one I really read, I was telling them I read in 93, was called Crying Wind. I just looked it up now. It was originally published in 1977. But it was about this Indigenous girl who was talking about how she gave her life to Christ. Now thinking about it as an adult, it's good you found Christianity, but I feel it's still not fair to look down on your culture and your traditional practices. I think it's you don't disrespect. See, they say you give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. You don't need to, even if I know that, I don't want to practice this anymore, but I don't have a right to say, because it's like me talking about Pidgin English now and saying, Pidgin English is bad, is this because I now speak the Queen's English? No. I think you accord respect and so it's very, very different.
I told that story because I knew that anybody who grew up in Nigeria, or for that matter, Hong Kong or India or anywhere in the Caribbean, would recognize that story because it's the same Queen, is it? And at one point they said you could follow the line of the sun and it would never set on anywhere that wasn't part of the British Empire. The sun never sets on the British Empire. So this is a universal experience, this speaking proper, And what you said about pigeon, we call it different things, but it's a mishmash of a lot of different things. That's the same throughout the Caribbean, everywhere you go, you know? And so, and yeah, this idea of internalizing, you know, it's the thing, like you, because the whole part of it was to civilize the savage. And they wanted to do that because, you know, Hausa and Igbo and Yoruba are indigenous people to Nigeria, to what we call Nigeria, but you are indigenous people. So what they're doing to them, they looked at it as the same thing as Ojibwe and Cherokee and Seminole. It's just another savage indigenous tribe that needs to be, that needs to have the savage beaten out of them.
That needs to be tamed.
That needs to be tamed. There was, and these traditions are unanimous, right? They are one thing, but our resistance to them, we always see them as different things. And so that's kind of one of my missions in life, is to bring all these people together who have been fighting the same monsters and kind of get them on the same page. And a big part of it is what you said, Luisa, is when you internalize self-hatred, then you say, well, pigeon is not, you know, that's not a legitimate way of speaking, or our old traditions are not legitimate. Like my people in Trinidad, my dad has a story where he says he couldn't go visit his aunt because they had the old Yoruba religions and practices, and they still did them. They called them Shango Baptists.
Shango,
but
okay. Oh,
yeah,
Shango,
and so
okay.
yeah, exactly, right? You recognize the name. Yeah. So even in Trinidad, hundreds of years later, in my dad's childhood, there was this idea that there's the traditional practices of Africa and Christian practices. And because you're doing one, you had to hate the thing that is actually your lineage and your legacy. That's where you came from. So even if you are like, we don't do that anymore, you at least, it seems strange to have hatred for something that is part of your history.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're hating yourself.
I think
which
it's
is
like you hating your essence.
Yes.
The essence that makes you and you unique. But I find that a lot amongst people that have been colonized, where you start to feel superior. I know I've come across friends and I go, oh, your child doesn't speak your indigenous language. Oh, no. My kids
we don't want them to speak that.
Yorubas will know Ajebota. That's like they what Ajebota. What does it mean in English?
I don't know.
All privileged.
Privilege, yes.
Yeah,
because
privileged kids.
Yeah.
Privileged kids, good, because they use butter. So they'll say, no, my kids are Ajebota. They don't speak Yoruba or Igbo, so it's just English. And I'm wondering, do you know what you sound like? Anyway, that's fine. I'll go back to the book.
But that's an important idea, though. That is a very important idea of how because the next novel, which I just finished, is exactly about that.
Oh,
it's about people sort of forgetting where they came from and kind of almost scorning their own lineages because they've internalized the whole narrative of colonialization, which is that you're a savage, so anything that has to do with your history is bad, and the better you can adopt our history and traditions, the better a person you are. Now you are a good person. Now you are a privileged person, right? And that's exactly what I see happening everywhere. Is that people, even with me, like the reason I'm here is because I learned the Queen's English really well. I was very good at it, right? Yeah. But in doing so, what do we sacrifice and what do we give up? And I think a lot of people feel lost because they have no connection to where they came from and those traditions. Even if it's far, far away, I know European people who can trace their ancestry back 500-600 years. So, and they're proud of it, and it gives them a sense of identity and strength and grounding. So, is there any coincidence that a lot of us feel kind of like ungrounded? And not so much folks like yourselves who come from Africa and come over and excel, because I think a large part of why you excel is because you know where your traditions are, you know where your people are, you know the ground that your grandfather, great grandfather going back, you're connected to it. The rest of us are, there's a big disconnect for us. And so that, even for Caribbean people, and when you look at America, like just think about America, it's even worse because they're even more disconnected, right? Because at least in the Caribbean, we were a majority, so we eventually got independence and could reconnect. They couldn't. And so when you see a lot of Native Americans struggling, that's part of it. That's part of it. Like, and listen to the history of it, right? It's unspoken, but a lot of the first in American history were by Caribbean people.
Mm.
So the first musical star to cross over across like film, TV, white, black, everyone was Harry Belafonte.
Oh, yeah.
Caribbean man. The first one to win an Oscar, black man to win an Oscar, was who? Sidney Poitier.
Oh,
Caribbean man.
wow.
The first black leader of the American military, Colin Powell, Caribbean man.
Oh, wow.
Right. So there's no, and the reason why the Caribbean people do well and African people do well in North America is because we don't have that kind of lost, almost like we grew up in countries where we had connection to our roots.
Mm.
And as a result, it made us more powerful. And so the question then is, if being connected to your roots and knowing where you come from is so powerful, then shouldn't we all be doing it? And shouldn't Americans be doing it? Right? And so, and I'm not even talking about pop stars like Rihanna and Nicki Minaj and people like that. Like, they're all Caribbean, like quite the guy, one of the first hip hop pioneers, Slick Rick, was born in Jamaica. Marcus Garvey, who started the biggest indigenous American, like they owned railroads and newspapers long before any other Black people did, was born in Jamaica. Right. And so a lot of American Black history is actually Caribbean Black history and Caribbean people who came over. And that's another thing, right? Like, we are, indigenous people and Black people sometimes fight, but the truth is Black people often disparage each other. I'm sure as African people coming to Canada, and you've experienced that, Caribbean people experience that. And then both of us go to America and we're like, what's wrong with these Black people? You've been here in the most prosperous country in the world for hundreds of years and you're poor. Like, we don't understand it. But the same way, if I were to come to Hausa territory and go, what's wrong with these Nigerians? You've had independence for how long? And you might say to me, well, sit down. You don't understand about the Biafran War. You don't understand about colonialization. You don't understand what we've been through to get here. And it's the same thing with Americans. If you don't know about Jim Crow and redlining and the Civil War, and like, if you don't, and civil rights, if you don't understand those things, then you're going to look at them and say, well, you're lazy. But actually, you don't, until you know the history, you have no right to speak on what's going on with people today. And keep in mind that they bled and died in the street so that the Civil Rights Act can pass. The Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, It doesn't say so that American-born Black people can vote. It doesn't even mention Black people. So every Chinese, Indian, all these Chinese and Indian people who are hating on American Blacks, all the African people that are coming to America and prospering, you're doing so on the backs of those people who bled and died in the past. And so that's why I say we always must honor, just like you wouldn't want somebody coming to Hausa or Yoruba or Igbo territory and having strong opinions without taking some effort to understand the history of your land, you would be insulted. Well, that's how they feel when we come and we say, we think we know about them, but we haven't taken the time to understand their history, which is long and deep, and the suffering they've gone through is why you can come as a Black person from Africa and become a citizen, and people will discriminate, but they can't stop you from prospering. Black Americans struggled and lived and died and sweat for that. And so we have to pay homage to that. And in Canada, we're starting Black History Month. There's people who, same thing here. You have a lot of people who look down on Black people in Canada, but we were the first race that wasn't white to get into Parliament. The first race that wasn't white, Micheal Jean, Governor General. The first, every first in Canada was either an Indigenous or a Black person. Right? And so it's really important for us as Black people. I care about it because I know Black people and love Black people from Africa, from the Caribbean, who were born here. And when I see them dissing each other, it's very upsetting to me because I understand that the white person will look at all of us the exact same. They do not care. They do not care. You're Hausa, you're Yoruba, they do not care. You're Africa, you come from London, England, Kingston, Jamaica, we do not care. You are not allowed in here because this marks you. This marks you, right? And so it is foolish for us to do the white person's work for them, like do the oppressor's work for them. And so that's my mission with a lot of my writing, is I'm always trying to bring that message. So I know, Luisa, I don't want to take too much more time, but when you brought that up, I was hot for it because I literally just finished writing the novel that is about American, I don't want to give too much away, but it is about the Yoruba gods being reincarnated in America today.
Oh, okay. We're looking forward to reading that. But one interesting thing from everything you said, until I started this book club, I realized that, from the readings and the conversation, that was when I realized that our experience of Blackness is very different. The African experience, the Caribbean experience, the American experience, the Canadian experience is very different. And I realized that some of the Blacks see us Africans as being insensitive. And then we look at them and go, you are too touchy. Why do you need to go talk about history all the time? So I learned to be very respectful of that.
Yes.
Hold on. Miss H. So we have Miss Hemilyn and Miss Heather here, our resident authentic Caribbean grandmas. Please. Hey, that's
hello.
Miss H, please ask your question or say something, some words of wisdom.
Well, I think you guys covered a lot, but I see where the strength comes from in the Caribbean. Without reading all this history and everything that I didn't get chance to, and still trying to do through the book club. But I always felt in the Caribbean, we're so grounded as kids, even when Ophelia in the church, I just imagine my little Caribbean self, like having a fight, spilling the beans, but you just confirm that, you reinforce that. And thank you very, very much for that. And just the awareness for us to treat each other better. Try to appreciate the ones before us. Instill these values in our children and keep it going. It's very important, because even professionally, when you talk about the English, I still practice to say some words because, of course, I'm from the Caribbean and it doesn't come. So before I have meetings, I may practice, I may try to speak slower. And then I have my kids who I taught how to speak correcting sometimes, So this just like comes full fold and it's appreciative in all dimensions. So for me, thank you for that.
Miss Heather, do you want to say anything?
Yes. First of all, I wanted to say thank you. This book has so much depth to it. And when you were explaining your reasons for being able to write the story, especially when you talked about the pregnancy, as someone who spent, a lot of time up north on a consistent basis, working for DYP, I lived in it. And you're so right in terms of this is what the reality is. And it's a sad reality. But if one is writing a story, it has to be reflective of what the reality is. So I just wanted to take the time to say just thank you very much. It was amazing. Amazing.
No, thank you for that. It means a lot. It really does mean a lot. And I think, in Saga Boy, I write about my Aunt Joan as a Caribbean woman being in the North. That's how I ended up there. And so doing a lot of like social work and family therapy, just caring for people, just like Lala said, like working as a nurse, she was more on the therapeutic end. But so many of us, it's ironic because like I said, the colonization happened. They see us both as just indigenous people that they needed to re-educate. And then of course, and then in the flow of history, here we are, all these people from Africa and the Caribbean going to reserves of these other indigenous people to care for them. And I just feel like it's such an incredible story of history that these two peoples who've crossed the world, crossed the seas, both colonized, and here they are brought together again, picking up the pieces really. And so it's again, I feel like that solidarity with indigenous people, we should recognize that we too are indigenous people, just from somewhere else.
Yes.
Thank you. It's interesting how they use the word indigenous people, which I found very interesting. But in Nigeria, we call ourselves indigents. That's the word we use. We don't use indigenous. We say I'm an indigene, or we say I'm a son of the soil. Yeah, so we use the word indigent. But I wanted to ask, you see, okay, so I was gonna ask about the river and Etsy as why they are such central anchors. Like, what did the river allow you to say that a different setting wouldn't have allowed you to say? For example, why didn't you just say, okay, Ophelia, Grandma Blue, all of you live in these apartment buildings, and then the owner of the building is European and is trying to evict you all? Why did you choose Etsy as a city, and why did you choose the river?
Louis says writing a whole next book.
Because my mind, it took me places. Because after this, we're going to go to Christopher. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of things. I mean, sometimes in art, as in life, we choose things based on our intuition, and then we have grand explanations for it after.
Okay.
But the truth is, the landscape was the first thing that came to me. The landscape, Grandma Blue, Ophelia, that came to me all at once. Okay. And it was like a mystery that I had to write the book to solve.
Okay.
So a couple things. I think the movement from village to city is something that's universal everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's in a lot of our histories and backstories. right? The movement from country to town to city.
Yeah.
And so there's something about the Garden of Eden there, right? You have a childhood, because the Garden of Eden is this place, it's a garden, it's lush, it's got rivers and trees and fruit, and it's a garden. And so, and the Garden of Eden in the Bible represents innocence.
Yeah, true.
And then when you're thrust out of it, it represents going into the world of sin. And so that's what Ophelia is doing. So the river and the country and that landscape, that is her innocence of childhood in the protection that Grandma Blue has given her. And then when she leaves it, now she's left the garden and that protection is gone. And now she's kind of fending for herself. Also, the river represents time. Because you know what they say? They say that the river is always the same river, but you never step into the same river twice. It's always there,
Flowing, yeah.
but it's always flowing, and that's time, right? And so I was trying to create this world where almost you didn't even really care what year it was. It felt like it was stuck in time, and the past was always intruding on the present. It was always the history and the family. And Grandma Blue's always talking about Chief Trout Hands and what they used to do and the old ways. And so you got this space where all the past and all the present and even the futures that they're dreaming about are all happening all at once.
Okay.
And the river is kind of a physical symbol of that, although I never really explain it, but there's some things you don't, if you explain it, it ruins the fun. So,
yeah,
so
what was it about Ophelia's mom? Because I said I don't think you ever explained it.
I did.
I
did, but very briefly.
Yeah,
Ophelia's mom died in childbirth.
Oh.
Yeah, and they didn't really.
Yeah, they didn't want to talk about it.
No, not really. I mean, part of it was Ophelia is essentially an orphan, but she has a family. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of kids like that where they're being raised by auntie because mom is gone foreign and she's gonna send for them, or the parents aren't around, dad is somewhere we don't know, or grandmother is raising them, or auntie is raising them. And so I wanted her to be one of those children whose parents weren't there.
But
so
Shango was her dad, right?
Shango is her dad.
Okay.
But he's Grandma Blue's son, but her mom's side of the family she didn't know. And that's part of the pregnancy thing and keeping the baby was because she didn't have her mom. And now she was, yes, my mom had me, but I never had her.
Oh, I see.
Lala is the queen of multitasking right now. She's running the chat talk. She's dancing.
Yeah, because I was wondering. I'm like, okay, Shango is her dad. Where is her? What's it with her mom? At the point I thought maybe her mom was white. Then when Auntie Belle and Ophelia went to the Beauregards, and I saw is it animosity between Auntie Belle and Christopher's mom? I was wondering, did they love the same man at the same time? What was that about?
Well, Louisa.
But tell us more about Christopher. Yeah. Christopher, sometimes you love him, he's written in a way that invites complicated reactions.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I believe I'm a big fan of Toni Morrison and that tradition of writing that says, look, it is not my job as a writer to judge the character. It's not my job as a writer to say that Ophelia is right or wrong. Christopher is right or wrong. Even Shango, is he a bad guy or just an unfortunate guy? You know, it's not my place. It's just my place to show you the picture and ask the question, and you decide as a reader how you feel about it. And so there are many different reactions to everything, including Christopher. But Christopher is a guy, there are people who say you let Christopher off easy. And there are people who say, well, I wish she had married Christopher. Why didn't she marry him? Right? So
I started off loving him. Then I'm like, you bastard.
Yeah. Well, but that's how it works, isn't it? You can only be betrayed by someone who trusts you, who you trust. You can only be
passport. I thought he was her passport out of poverty. And when he assured her, when she told him she was pregnant, and he reassured her and all of that. But my mind was, I was thinking, okay, they are so young, maybe he will go cry to his father. Then you gave a backstory of the mom, and you gave a backstory of his dad. Okay.
Yes.
What would they, I mean, Christopher was raised by, his wet nurse was black, and then the influence from her sons.
Yes.
But I realized that his parents felt that his affinity for black women was a problem. But this is a father, he's a mother who has her string of low-life lovers, and then the father who has a steady string of prostitutes. So I was wondering, what kind of family is this? Okay, maybe the world, everything's gonna be fine. It's gonna be kumbaya with and Christopher. I'm like, no.
First of all, passport out of poverty is the most Nigerian thing you've said today.
No.
Second of all, I mean, I follow Nigerian social media. I know that there are rich men dating young women.
Oh yes.
And who have all kinds of, I don't feel like what I portrayed should be very strange to anyone anywhere. Because I feel anywhere in the world you go, there are rich men with a string of prostitutes and wives with a string of secret lovers.
Yes.
And sons who grow up confused and rebel and want to rebel because they sons who are not the equal of the legacy that is trying to be handed down to them. I feel like all of these are archetypes. I could change their names and make it Lagos, and nobody could argue that, nobody would think that this is strange.
Okay, let me say something here. If Christopher was a Nigerian, you know what would happen?
Yeah. What would happen?
If Ophelia, yes, is the girl he really loves, but her social class and all of that is not what he wants, he will marry the girl his parents want him to marry.
Of course.
Yes, then he will keep Ophelia as his side chick. So you will see saying where
I don't think that that's different from what Christopher was trying to do.
Yeah, but he was, let me put it in a very Nigerian way. He was Oyibo now. He was a white guy. So, okay, so this is the hopeless romantic in me speaking. Because when I thought they were going to run off into the sunset. Then I went, I had to listen to it again. I started, I think, chapter 32 this morning. I had to listen to it again. I said, I'm not sure what I heard. I listened to it again this morning. I'm like, Louisa, I thought you were tough. Oh, you're still soft. No.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Oh, Lord. That was.
So for Christopher, I think he is like a lot of, I call them fetishizers. There are a lot of white people, men and women, who, and I'm not, I don't care who, I believe that love is so hard to find in this world. If you find it, wherever form God bless you to find it, who am I to say that it's wrong? However, there are white folks who only date a certain race that's not theirs, whether it's Asian or Latina or Black. And that, to me, it's one thing to say I'm open to everybody, but it's another thing to say I only want to date this other race. That, to me, is what we call a fetish, right? It's when something that's exotic turns you on, and so you fixate on it. And, as long as I've lived in Canada, that's happened to me, where white girls will say, well, they will say, oh, I like you. But when you come to know what they're saying, really, It's not that they like me, it's that they like Black skin, and they actually don't care what I think or feel. And of course, I'm a very strange Black guy because I'm not dancing in the club and rowdy and rere. I'm reading books and I'm playing guitar and yeah. And and I have manners. So they think, oh, you're not really Black, because they have a fetish for a certain kind of Black man that they've built in their heads. And so Christopher is a fetishizer. And, he came about it honestly, as you say. It wasn't his fault that who he was raised by and who he was raised around. But he obviously likes Black women, but he doesn't respect them because she's the third one that he's gotten pregnant. But also, as Lala put in the chat, he's a kid too. They're both children. And they're both children caught up in the lineages of the histories that they're born into. Like I said, we are all born into a family history, a tribal history, a town history, a national history, a human history. And they are connected in this strange way that they saw each other when they were children, and neither of them understood what they were dealing with. And so I hope it comes across that there is empathy for Chris, because I don't see him as a villain. I see him as someone who is just, he's thrust into a legacy he doesn't understand, and he falls in love. I think he's actually in love. I don't think it's all just a game, but he doesn't know how to actually, it's Romeo and Juliet, right? The two kids fall in love, but the actual reality of their families and the world they live in mean that they can't be together.
I think I just liked that he apologized. At least he said he was sorry. But apart from that, I just lost it. When I got to that part, I'm like, oh no, you guys didn't run away. I was just like, no. No.
I think Lala is having a whole other book club here while we're doing.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the chat.
I love it. She just quoted Saga Boy to support my point. I'm like, this is yes.
What can you tell us the title of the next book you're working on? I just saw it here now. Bukola asked. Yes, the title.
Oh, the title. Oh, yes, I did see that. So I don't know. I don't like to give out titles because they tend to change.
Okay.
But it's currently called Ratchet and Rose, after the two people that it's basically a road trip of two friends, and it happens the year Ferguson happens. If you remember Ferguson in 2017, where Michael Brown was shot and there were protests. So they decide that they want to drive to Ferguson because they can't let history happen without them. Mm-hmm. And this road trip turns into something much bigger than they ever planned. But that's their names. His nickname is Ratchet and her name is Rose. Rose Sharon Richardson.
Okay, thank you. But what part of this book was hardest for you to write?
Well, the middle part is always hardest because it's easy to do a beginning because you're excited. Yeah. And the ending, you're also excited because you can see it coming together. But the middle is always hard. So I would say from the time, if we're talking just like the technicality of writing it, I think the emotional difficulty might be different. But from a technical point of view, from the time she gets to her auntie's house to the time she goes to the new high school. So there's Auntie Belle, there's an Auntie Belle period, and then there's her other auntie period where she's in the apartment with the boys. That part with the boys and going to school and going to church, that part was really difficult for me to write because it involved, I think the Garden of Eden part is very similar. Like I could draw from my upbringing for that.
Okay.
And the end part I could draw from experiences that I had and from research. But the middle part, like, I've experienced it, but not the same way because I skipped those years in school.
Okay.
So when I came to Canada, I was 12, but I was reading and at like a grade 11 level or grade 12 level. And they were like, well, but you're supposed to be in grade 6. And so they wanted to skip me to grade 9 or 10 even. And so but they didn't want to put this little 12-year-old in high school. So they skipped me 2 grades.
Okay.
And so that's right. Those are the same years that Ophelia is being portrayed in when she's with her auntie. And so that was the hardest because I had the least actual memory or connection, experiential connection to that part of a child's life. Less much for a girl, right? Because yeah, so that was really hard.
Okay.
But
I want to go to Grandma Blue because I know that you are very Miss Exley. You are very close to your grandma. So when I hear stories of people who are close to their grandma, I like to know because I wasn't close to mine. Mine was tough. At every misbehavior, you would feel the stick on your back. So that was the kind of grandma I had. My grandma was very, very, very strict. And I remember when she passed away, I didn't cry. I just remember saying to my dad, well, you did what you could, to take care of her. I didn't meet my mom's mom, but from her photos, I guessed, she would have been, kind. So Grandma Blue, there was something that was I can't remember the page, but where you said she felt she had failed when it came to raising her kids. So what was it with, because in Nigeria we say, pikin wey go spoil, go spoil. Meaning, no matter what you do for a child that will be bad will be bad.
Yeah.
That as a mother, she was good. But Shango, I don't know, was he a thief? I mean, he just came from jail in a wheelchair. He would disappear, then come back, disappear. Belle, I felt Belle had identity crisis. She had money, but what was it with the French she was speaking later in the book and asking her niece to address her as madame? Then the other one that was a drunk. What was it with Ophelia as a person? I loved. I liked her, you gave us a little bit of her love story with the what's his name again? Trout Hands? Yeah, who chose to go and fall in love with a black woman that was against their not policies, but just their biases. But what was it with she and her kids? Why did her kids turn out the way they did? Because I expected.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Lala, what do you think? What's your thoughts on that one?
The drunk, the other one, her kids, I just didn't understand.
Was it pick me where go spoil, go spoil?
Pikin where go spoil. No, we should teach you pidgin English. Pikin where go spoil, go spoil.
I think it goes way more than just raising children.
Okay.
When you're raising children on a reserve, okay? Because it's even more than, like, you and I face racism every day.
Okay.
But for these people, it's just them being ostracized, like literally, like they're in a reserve. When you go on a reserve, it's a third world country out there. It's a third world country out there. So the living conditions, and that's not because they don't have money. At least from the ones in this country with status, who has Indian status, they have a lot of funding, everything. But their issues are way more than money can solve. There's generational traumas that you can't even begin to think about or even imagine. There is diseases like, diseases that are not even existing outside of the reservation.
Okay.
Because of the communal living, congestion, and there's alcoholism passed down from generation to generation. So it is not unusual for a woman like Ayana to have 10 children before she's 40,
40. Okay.
and 4 of those children, or 5, alcoholics. It is not unusual for some of them to have not ever ventured outside of the reserve. I know the one kid, the first time she saw me, she said, "What are you?"
Wow.
So, and it wasn't in a bad way. It's just genuinely, "What are you? Like, what are you? Chocolate?" So for people like that, to answer your question, in my opinion, there's no raising them. There's no raising them. There's no raising. It's a battle that I don't know if it can ever be solved in our lifetime. There was the
Yeah,
one
that's
girl. Go ahead.
no, that's exactly why I asked you to answer, because that's exactly what's in my head. It's growing up on a reservation is tough, and everyone leaves, and if they can, or they stay and they're miserable. And theirs was also complicated by the fact that being Black meant that they were never fully accepted in the society anyhow. So not having on top of living in this very difficult place, they also are not even accepted within that. And so, Grandma Blue's sorrow is that she tried to raise her kids, but there's no winning in a situation like that. And, so Ayana went to the town and basically passed for Black because she could, and pretended like, she has, when you were talking before about somebody hating their own tradition,
Yeah.
think about it. She has this friend who does not like Cherokee people.
Cherokee people, yeah.
And she considers it, she keeps the friend because as long as this person who doesn't like Cherokee people is her friend, then that means that she's doing a good job not being Cherokee.
It's so interesting. It's like when you meet people here and they go, you ask, what Nigerian community? Oh, no, I don't mix with Nigerians. I don't.
But
Because I don't
we all have a
Yeah.
little bit. We all have
Yeah,
a bit
we
of
have,
that
I
in
think
us.
we have, I
Because
think we all
when we
have
come,
that.
yeah, when we come to this place,
Mm-hmm.
we our goal is to assimilate, right?
Yeah.
Because if we really wanted to be authentic and be ourselves, then perhaps we shouldn't have ventured out. So when we come here, we want to assimilate. And as somebody once said, I forget, I heard a long time ago, in assimilation, something is lost. You lose something to gain something. And with Ophelia, even with that, there was no winning. She had this person around to keep her in check because they don't like Cherokee, but they like her. So she's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing a good job hiding it. But then they don't even like you as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a real situation people have, like a lot of people have. I mean, people have been passing, Black people have been passing as white
Yeah. I mentioned this
for
earlier. I said,
for hundreds of years, and Indigenous people even more so. Light-skinned Indigenous people have been passing as white forever. And then that's what Belle is also doing, because Belle has this added thing of being very smart, right? So she's a prodigy. And so she starts getting opportunities. And the first chance she gets, she leaves. And in her whole mind, she was like, I don't belong here. I don't want to be like these people. I'm better than these people. I would like to, like the people who don't want their kids to speak Yoruba or Igbo. I want to forget that even happened and start fresh, because I don't believe anything is good about that. And by the way, that's the same attitude of a lot of American Black people. A lot of the argument at the beginning of Ratchet and Rose as they go on their road trip is, she says, well, we're African American. And he says, I'm not African. I never been to African. Africans are losers. I don't want to be associated with being African. And that's how a lot of people in America think. Anytime they see Africa on TV, it's not winning. because a lot of what they show is always, like there's a lot of American people who think that there are no rich Africans, right? And there are no, skyscrapers in Africa and no, they don't understand because that's not shown to them. And so there's a lot of American Black people who believe that that Africa is bad and they don't want to be African American because they think that everything to do with Africa is bad. And that's actually the argument that Ratchet and Rose are having in the car. She's going, look, man, you've got to honor our ancestors. This is where we came from. This is our roots. And he's going, I've never been to Africa. I don't do African things. I'm American, and of course, Italians have Little Italy. It doesn't stop them from being Canadian or American.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Irish celebrate St. Paddy's Day. It doesn't stop them from being American, right? The Scottish have the Highland Games. It doesn't stop them. So for every other people, you can celebrate where you came from and still be American. But for Black people, where they're always trying to tell them, go back to Africa, still to this day, they tell Black people, go back to Africa. So they're always trying to fight the association with Africa because it's been used as a negative thing towards them.
Wow.
Over the years.
Okay. Well,
Bukola had a hand up.
did she? Bukola,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
I did. Oh, I put it down because you've actually just said what I was about to say, that you can assimilate, you can be part of a community and still hold on to good things about your own culture. But then when you started talking about other people like the Irish did, that's why I put my hand up, because it is true. Other people do it, but why can't we do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Well, yeah. Well, it's because it's been, even right now, it's being systematically erased, right? Like Black people's history in America is being systematically erased right now. They say if you go to the Naval Academy at the Naval War College, where they teach the Navy's officers, there's a huge library there, and you cannot find a single reference to slavery. Wow. Or to any achievements of Black people because they've taken those books out, but you can still find Hitler's Mein Kampf.
What?
So that's why American Black people are disconnected from their history. It's because they're being systematically, their schools are being starved so they don't read. And then those that read, their access to literature that teaches them where they came from is systematically, like, it's gone. It's gone. So it's hard. And I spent a lot of time in America and with American Black folks. And so I feel like I'm a bridge because I'm Caribbean, I'm Canadian, I have lots of African friends, and I love West African people and Congolese people, lots of friends from Africa. But I've also spent a lot of time in America. Like all my working life I've spent in America. So I'm very comfortable and I have friends all over America. So I can see where the misunderstandings are happening. And it really upsets me because I'm like, look, again, the place that they ban one of us from, everybody else getting banned too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nobody, they're gonna treat you the same if you show up at their doorstep.
Yeah.
And the police are gonna shoot you and arrest you same way, no matter how respectable you are. So
yeah. I think it's very interesting. I remember when I went to the UK for my postgrad, I think the first thing my professors found very strange, and anytime they would write a reference for me, is her English is very good. And I was wondering, okay, my English is very good. The hell, you guys colonized us, took away our language. What do you expect me to speak? But they will always say that. So sometimes when I speak in class, I will get this. And then when there was this dating site, then whispers to you. And there was this guy I remember I used to chat with. And the question always used to be, how come your English is very good? So I was tempted to ask him one time. I think the problem is Tarzan. When you watch Tarzan, the hero is a white man, and every indigenous tribe they come across is they are all portrayed as savages. And we all grew up loving, Tarzan. Anyway, as we wrap up on a lighter note, I think there's a bit of Nigerian in you because you see, the way you wrote this here, let me speak to you like a Nigerian. Good. I liked that when you wrote about Christopher and Ophelia's rendezvous in the treehouse. You didn't need to go into it was tastefully done. Let me put it that way. You didn't need to give us too much information. But you see this paragraph, eh? I said, this thing sounds very Nigerian. I bet like they listen to this. So he turned her, this is page 224. Aha, Bukola, you're listening. He turned her every which way. You know, Nigerians use that a lot. Good. He turned her every which way. He rearranged her cells.
That's very Nigerian.
Very Nigerian, yeah. So he turned her every which way. He rearranged her cells. He put his spoon in her soup and whipped her up into a thick, sweaty lather. His hands were so soft but hungry.
What did Chino Achebe am I listening to?
Good.
Chino...
So, you didn't notice it. So I said I was going to ask him this. Then wait, let me finish the paragraph. They moved steadily and surely. She felt like her body was the land, and she was the Etsy River melting into the pools of rushing, sopping fluid. When she closed her eyes, it felt as if the top of her head glittered like a star cluster, and her sockets were two moons. Her stomach was the field, the bush, and the river. It was as if she was as big as a continent, limitless and expanding. That is so Nigerian. You see that every which way is so Nigerian. He rearranged herself. You know, in Nigeria, in Nigeria, we have all sorts of slangs. You know, if a person wants to say to you, I'm going to slap you, they don't need to say, I will slap you. They can just say to you, I will dial your number. Dial your number means, your phone. You do this with your phone. That is it. If they say to you,
I will rearrange your face.
Or I will rearrange your face. So once you hear, I will dial your number or I'll rearrange your face.
I'm sure he reads a lot of Nigerian.
No, he listens to, because when I read,
and also he loves Fela. I remember the last time I was at the shrine, I called him on video. Remember?
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, because when I read this paragraph, I read it again and I went, this is so Nigerian. Well, anyway, what connects all of us is blood. And
yes,
yeah,
blood and the queen.
And the queen, exactly.
The queen colonized our mind.
Yes, exactly.
Saga Boy.
That's how Saga Boy started. Yeah. Anyway, please, who else has questions? Because if we sit here, we're going to go all and all. So
Luisa just read the spiciest part of the book.
Yes, because it's very nice.
This is why she wanted them to get married in the end. I see now.
You see this is her.
How many people can rearrange yourself? This one, rearranging yourself. I'm like, okay.
She's like,
But I like the way. I love the way you wrote this paragraph. I love it.
Don't forget our picture, please.
Yes. I love the way you wrote this paragraph.
Thank you.
Talk to us about it. What inspired you to write it this way? Why didn't you do what other
Louisa?
I'm asking a question now. Other authors will tell you things. You understand? The hands were here, the legs were here. But
I'll give you a Trinidadian saying: don't hang your hat where your hand can't reach.
That's right. That's right.
That's it.
So, but I really enjoyed it. The beginning started slowly for me, but it started picking up, and yeah.
It is a slow beginning. That is to weed out the fools. We weed them out.
Yeah, but this was really good. Please, let's take our photos. For those of you who have the book, let's take our photo before we forget. Let's see.
Bukola has a different cover.
Yeah, that's the American cover.
It's the American.
Okay, that's the American.
By the
cover.
way, I couldn't get it in the UK. I had to order this from America.
Yes, I'm banned in the UK.
Oh, you're banned there? Oh, wow.
Do you know why?
No, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding.
but it's not available in the UK. Yeah, I had to get it from.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Antonio, do you have your copy as the author?
I have many copies. Hold on.
Yes.
Oh,
thank you.
let's see.
Louisa,
I like seeing different covers.
you forgot to let him read us his favorite line.
Okay, now after the picture, he can read for us. He can read it to us, right? La 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 la. Not talk anything though. You rearrange herself.
Oh Lord have mercy.
Oh,
Okay.
lovely.
Okay. Oh, yes, both. Okay. Nice mouse, everyone. Okay, Antonio, please read us your favorite part of the book. Special request from Lala.
He rearranged her
Oh
cells.
God.
He put his spoon in her egusi soup. And no, sorry, that's
a different book.
That's a different book. I think Louisa is writing her own book.
She's in her own words. Believe that.
Yes. You know, I like the part where.
Tell us the page.
If
you can.
There's so many parts that I enjoy. Da-da-da-da. Stay tuned. Okay, this is for Louisa.
What page?
196. I don't know if 196 in the Canadian one. I'm in that one that you have, Louisa.
Yeah.
And for the American one, give me a second. I will.
86.
Yeah, it's the same in both.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
I didn't realize that. I just learned that. And if you're on your Audible, it's chapter 33, but it's about 4 pages into chapter 33.
Okay.
It's chapter 33 on Kobo too.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, 196. Yeah.
If you have all three versions, like me.
Okay, this one I'm gonna dedicate to Louisa.
Oh, thank you.
There was a white boy owning the dance floor with a gang of dudes. This got Ophelia hot right off. Why are they always up in our business? As soon as my people get something popping, ta-da, white people jump in like they own it. Ophelia knew that she was a hater. She couldn't help it. After having her own blackness questioned, she hated how some white guys and girls could just stroll into a black club and be accepted. They could do the moves, wear the clothes, talk the talk, sing the song, but when it was all said and done, they got to change their clothes and become something else. She couldn't change her skin. Her fight for acceptance was permanent. This is why she was a hater. Still, she thought, damn, that white boy can move. Ophelia found herself adjusting to take in the scene around him. He bopped seamlessly to Get Your Freak On, that Missy Elliott song. And when the DJ pulled it, he switched up his flow to Sierra's 1-2 step without missing a beat. Enamored with that sweaty dance floor man smell, she circled the crowd, trying to find an angle where she could keep watching him do his thing. Bass from the speakers mingled with cologne and spilled vodka. That recipe was pulling her in. And in the center of it was this white boy with his baby blue bucket hat, tall, ball player ripped shoulders. Them shoulders, though. and the baby blue Larry Johnson #2 Charlotte Hornets jersey with the pants sagging just so, 23s on his feet and his hat pulled low so all she could see were his lips mouthing the words to every song. Unconsciously, she dipped into the middle of the crowded pack of bodies, bouncing, but kept track of where he was, kept moving in his direction, circling him like a planet does its sun. When she got near the middle of the floor, little John dropped. Called it, she yelled, and the validation put the batteries in her back. She punched her hand up, pointed at the roof, and started to shake. To the window! To the wall. Mezcal was her drink for the birthday turn-up. Feeling herself, she tilted her head back and let her hips bang to the beat. Her mouth tasted fiery and delicious. The strapped-up heels that she had borrowed from Key tapped out the beat. Her whole body started to lean and tingle. Out of the corner of her eyes, there he was again. What she could see of his face glowed alabaster bright under the lights. A slight gap in his teeth left his face with the residue of a rascal, and he knew all the steps, hit all the turns, popping, locking, floor game tight too. He came out of a split, mouthing, yeah, yeah, like he was auditioning for the Usher video shoot. Damn, that white boy could move though. See? They should have never given Justin Timberlake money. Elvis, Rick Ashley, none of that. I'll stop there.
Thank you. It's so interesting that you see.
Why she got pregnant?
Look at it. See my pen.
That area. Wow.
Just woke up and I'm like, this boy, how far now? I just use my pen. I put it. Am I so predictable?
And that's why she got pregnant.
Yes. Thank you. She got pregnant. It's like she might be an orphan, but Ophelia did not come here to suffer.
No.
Oh, this has really been a good one. This has really been good. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for always, responding when we reach out to you. So for everybody who hasn't met Antonio Micheal Downing, this is him. Like they give him a Yoruba name, I beg. Like we gave the other author, give him a Yoruba name.
Oh, be careful.
Adebowale.
Adebowale. What does that mean?
The crown has come home.
Oh, that's good. Adebowale.
Oh, what? Do you approve, Ayomiku? Do you approve?
Aha, Ayomiku. So these are the
I approve, and I want to extend to Adebowale Lala.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Okay.
The crown that came into Lala's house.
Adebowale Lala.
So, Buki, I didn't expect that from you.
Antonio Micheal. No,
Lala
Antonio Micheal Adebowale Downing.
Yes.
So
yes.
This is our Adebowale now. Adebowale Lala. It is well.
Lala, this book club is there's some scandalous behavior. I don't know.
I'm telling you.
I don't know. I was not warned.
Well, there you have it.
This is our 7th year and we are still growing. So anyway, I just want to say thank you. Everyone give him hearts. Oh, that's my sister down there. She's sitting in her car. Victoria.
He's coming
Victoria,
to Ottawa. He's coming for some jollof.
Oh, when? When are you coming to Ottawa?
Yeah, he owes us a visit. He promised me.
Please, when you are in Ottawa, let us know.
I'm coming to Ottawa before April. I don't know the exact date yet, but I will let you know.
Please let us know. We'll make our time. Let us know. Let us know.
Yes.
Please, everyone, give him hearts in the reaction.
Thank you.
Hearts. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Blessings
much.
to all of
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.